So as you can see, I've done a little bit more work on the actual grooming of the horse, made some areas longer. Now we have a problem at the back here in that I've posed the hair, but it's just gone too close to the leg itself. But we can use other tools like elevation here. You see, if you brush with that, it's going to raise the hair back away from the surface. I can change the goal angle to maybe 90 degrees just to make that move a little bit more. So that's just going to raise that up for us. Let's just change this to 5. That's better. So it's almost like the horse is a bit cold and the hair's standing on end. And we can also go in and use smooth, and that will just soften the fur so it's not so random. And it's a bit more uniform. And obviously there are lots of other tools that you can play around with here. For parting the hair, and that gives it a nice curl, as you can see. Repel just separates the hair. But what we're going to do is just going to go back in and just pose this again. To bring it back down a little bit. We'll maybe add a little bit of length up here and at the back of the leg. We want this horse to look quite furry. Maybe it lives in the Arctic, so it needs a nice thick coat to survive. Use elevation just to pull those hairs up. It doesn't matter if they stick out a little bit. We want it to look a bit stylized. As you can see up here, we've added a bit of length to the top of his head and underneath his chin. Now, what happens if we come to the face and we want to actually make the hair shorter? Now, the increment here is 0.5, so it's going to be, every time we apply a brush stroke, it's going to make the hair longer. If we set that to 0, it's not going to do anything, and if we set the goal length to 0, it's still not going to do anything. But what you can actually do is set this to -5 and set the goal length to, let's just try 0. And there you go. As you see, that's shrinking that fur back down, although that's probably a bit too much. Let's just make that longer again, like so. So if we set that to 0, or maybe the goal length wants to be 1. So we've just got short hair, and you see that's not going past 1 now. So that's just shrinking that back down there. So maybe we just want shorter hair around the head, around the nose area. By locking that at 1, it means that we're not going to drop straight down so there's no hair there at all like we did previously. And then we could maybe drop that down to 0.5 and then reduce our increment to 1 just to make the hair here a little bit shorter, but it means we can just work on it without worrying about it just disappearing. And again, use our flip to right just to mirror that across like so. So let's say that you're quite happy, you've done the, you're at a stage where you want to check how the fur is looking on the model. So I'm just going to press Control Space to bring back the time slider. If we go to 0, then we'll see it's not updated, and the grooming preview is stuck here. So let's just preview the current description. This may take a second because we've done quite a bit of work on it, so it's got to recalculate. Just wait for this to, there we go. And there it's applied that fur. As you can see there, we've got our long strips here, long strips on the knee, long areas up there. So that's transferred quite nicely across to our model. And if we want to do any more grooming, we can just go back to here, update it with this here, and then go back to our frame, update the preview. And if we wanted to, we could go back to our primitives tab. And obviously, we've got all this to play with as well when we come to rendering. But for now, we're just going to, if we up the density to 1, now update it. And there, we can see we've got thicker fur over it. I think it's, not sure why it's flickering red when I zoom out like so, but we'll not worry about that too much. But yeah, there, you can see. Right, let's see if we could change the colour of the preview. I don't think that option's available in this, unless you change the grooming colour down here, but that will change this section here. So we won't worry about that, we'll just leave that as it is. So if you continue to just work on the grooming, brushing the hair, getting the lengths right, and then what we'll do in the next video is we will look at playing around with some of the other values and getting the hair and getting the fur as well as the mane and the tail to all render out together.